So Republican Senator Bill Cassidy has found himself in some hot water over some statements that he made recently in a Politico article. Let's take a quick look and then we'll get into some afterthoughts. The title reads, Why Louisiana's Mortality Rates Are So High. This came out on the 19th. Senator Bill Cassidy, Republican from Louisiana, said Louisiana's maternal mortality rate, one of the worst in the nation, does not tell the whole story of maternal health in the state because of its large black population and the uncommonly broad definition Louisiana uses. About a third of our population is African American. African Americans have a higher incidence of maternal mortality. So if you correct our population for race, we're not as much of an outlier as it otherwise appear. What? So if you correct our population for race, about a third of our population is African American. Senator Bill Cassidy said in an interview with Politico for the Harvard Chan School of Public Health series Public Health on the Brink. Now, I say that not to minimize the issue, but to focus the issue as to where it would be for whatever reason people of color have a higher incidence of mortality. And yeah, so let's take a look at that. Wisconsin Representative Gwen Moore tweeted her response to this article, of course, saying Bill Cassidy is a sitting GOP senator and a doctor. He doesn't seem to care that black women are disproportionately dying in his state. His indifference is sickening to read, but it helps explain why America continues to struggle with a maternal health crisis. NARAL President Minnie Timaraju commented Senator Cassidy's comments are not only ignorant and racist, they ignore the role that anti-choice Republican policies have played in exacerbating the very real maternal mortality crisis in our country, which disproportionately impacts black communities. If you correct our population for race, we're not as much of an outlier as African Americans have a higher incidence of mortality, maternal mortality. For whatever reason, people of color have a higher incidence of maternal mortality. Business Insider, Yahoo, Vanity Fair were also quick to see the apparent racism of his comments, but, you know, not to make light of it, but I thought that Marjorie Taylor Greene had already said that racism doesn't exist in the United States. I mean, isn't that the narrative that these folks are pushing from the ultra deep, dark, soggy MAGA pants crowd anyway? The article later goes on to say, race is a social construct. It's not a biological condition, said Veronica Gillespie, medical director of Louisiana's Perinatal Quality Collaborative and Pregnancy Associated Mortality Review. We'll say that time 15 times fast. An obstetrician at Ochsner Health, to say that because we have a lot of black people in Louisiana, that's why our outcomes are so bad, is out of context. Cassidy, one of 4 physicians serving in the Senate, acknowledged during the interview that several reported reasons for high mortality rates in the state include racial bias in care, higher rates of preeclampsia among black women, a serious high blood pressure condition that is the leading cause of maternal deaths worldwide, and the difficulty for women, especially in rural areas, to easily and quickly get to medical care. I'm still not quite over. So if you correct our population for race, that's disturbing. But yeah, and I mentioned MTG. We will get to MTG in a minute. First, just on the fence of race relations in the United States, I want to move immediately into Trump and CPAC Hungary 2022. Woohoo! Now, I've talked about European authoritarians on this show. I've talked about Serbia, Hungary, Russia, and Trumpism. I've made the connections, I've drawn the lines in some of my least watched videos, but hey, I don't mind talking about it again. Let's take a look. The Guardian reports Trump shares CPAC Hungary platform with notorious racist and anti-Semite. What? Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Well, of course you can. Stop it. Hungarian talk show host who calls Jews... We'll get to that. We'll get to that. We will get to that. This was published on the 21st. A notorious Hungarian racist who has called Jews, quote, this is a quote, stinking excrement, referred to Roma as, quote, animals, and used racial epithets to describe black people, was a featured speaker at a major gathering of U.S. Republicans in Budapest. Zsolt Bayer took the stage at the second day of the Conservative Political Action Conference, CPAC, Hungary, a convention that also featured speeches from Donald Trump, Fox News host Tucker Carlson, and Trump's former White House chief of staff, Mark the insurrectionist Texter Meadows. The last featured speaker of the conference was Jack Posobiec, a far-right U.S. blogger who's used anti-Semitic symbols, promoted the fabricated Pizzagate conspiracy theory, smearing prominent Democrats as pedophiles. Of course, where do they get this stuff, right? Bayer, a television talk show host in Hungary, has been widely denounced for his racism during the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests. He wrote on his blog, is, quote, is this the future? Question mark. Kissing the dirty boots of fucking, you can guess which racist epithet he was referring to, and smiling at them, question mark. Being happy about this, question mark, because otherwise they'll kill you or beat you up. These are all questions. That's the end of the quote. In 2011, he used the phrase, quote, stinking excrement to refer generically to Jews in England, and in 2013 wrote, a significant part of the Roma are unfit for coexistence. Whoa. They are not fit to live among people. These Roma are animals and behave like animals. That's the end of the quote, and should have been the end of that guy's career. When he was awarded the Hungarian Order of Merit in 2016 by the country's nationalistic Prime Minister, Viktor Orbán, the star speaker on the first day of CPAC Hungary on Thursday, the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum protested, saying it reflects the long-standing refusal of the leadership of Hungary's ruling Fidesz party to distance itself from Bayer, in spite of Bayer's repeated pattern of racist, xenophobic, anti-Semitic, and anti-Roma incitement. At CPAC event on Friday, he appeared on stage with a prominent right-wing Hungarian screenwriter talking about gender issues. My God, I just imagine that they had some compelling things to discuss. Bayer focused on deriding Calvin Klein for political correctness, comparing a 2009 ad featuring a white supermodel whom Bayer called a very hot woman, with a 2019 ad featuring the black rapper Chica, who he described as not so hot, adding, it's clear that this ad was born under the aegis of Black Lives Matter. Addressing the conference by video shortly before Bayer's appearance, Trump poured compliments on Orbán, who was recently elected for a fourth term as prime minister. Dear leader, he's a great leader, a great gentleman, and he just had a very big election result. I was very honored to endorse him, Trump said. The U.S. think tank Freedom House has downgraded its assessment of Hungary to being a partly free society under Orbán and the Fidesz party, noting constitutional and legal changes that have allowed it to consolidate control of the country's independent institutions, including the judiciary. It also criticized the government for anti-immigrant, anti-LGBT, it says anti-LGBT plus policies and curbs on the independent media, universities, and NGOs. Orbán, like many American Republicans, has embraced the Great Replacement conspiracy theory. I wonder where he got that from. Which involves promoting the belief that the white population is being deliberately reduced by leftist policies and diluted immigration. CPAC, which is organized by the American Conservative Union, did not respond to a request for comment on Bayer's participation. Matt Schlapp, the CPAC chairman, complained on its website that leftist media launched a coordinated spear campaign. You don't need one. You don't even need one. Our mission is to increase freedom and opportunity across the globe, including for those living under socialist and communist regimes. Bro, you are at the regime. To hear the condescending whines from socialist boosters in the media like The Guardian. However, you would be led to believe that CPAC stood for something very different, he added. In the woke, warped logic of government-financed NPR, somehow calls for liberty and national sovereignty are akin to racism and authoritarianism. Yeah, that's all in the same article. That's all in the same article. And then The Guardian is asking for money, which, speaking of which, you could support independent media simply by going to patreon.com/chainsawccc. I think that's it. And support this channel, this program, for as little as $3 a month. That's like half the cost of a loaded tea per month. Can you believe it? And with an even more of a serotonin rush, right? Because I love you. It says so at the end of each video. But yeah, wow. Seriously, who is surprised? I'm only surprised that Serbian dear leader, Aleksandar Vučić isn't hosting the show and announcing the speakers. Okay, that's what I'm surprised about. It doesn't get any more just disgusting than that. But before we close it out today, I did want to share this with the class because, as I mentioned, clearly none of the things that we've discussed today at all are a problem, because Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course, had declared, what was it, like 2019, had already declared that racism just simply doesn't exist in the United States, and she's willing to double down on those statements. HuffPost, of course. I know all the righties love the HuffPost. Marjorie Taylor Greene can't figure out why people are picking on murderous white supremacists. This was published today, like today. Well, at 12 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene can't figure out why people are picking on murderous white supremacists. There's a Twitter video of Marjorie Taylor Greene. We're gonna check it out. So, extremist GOP rep MTG wondered in a weekend interview why people are picking on homicidal white supremacists. She said there are so many other criminals to complain about instead, like undocumented immigrants. She also said people should be talking about the Asian man who killed a member of the California church last week, and the black man who drove his car into Wisconsin shoppers last year. She added incongruously that it shouldn't be about race. What? Yeah, that's all in the same article too. Without further ado, let's take a look at MTG here.
Jail. I mean, sorry, not on the jail, on the bill for this domestic terrorism new bill that came out for the Department of Justice. And Jerry Nadler was on the House floor, and he was talking about white supremacy, and he was bringing up the terrible shooting that happened in New York, but totally ignoring the shooting that happened in California that I think involved an Asian man that was the shooter, totally ignoring the guy that drove his car, black man that drove his car through a Christmas parade, killing people and was a racist himself, completely ignoring the black man that did the New York subway shooting. You know, these people are all guilty of these crimes, and it's not about race. It shouldn't be about race, but they're clearly racist as well. So white supremacy shouldn't be the main target. We should be more concerned about the illegal invasion at the border, the crime happening every single day on our streets, and especially in cities like Chicago. We should go after criminals that break the law and not pursue people based on their skin color and how they vote. But that's what the Democrats want to do.
Yeah, that seems to be the case.
Look, I'm just going to be about as real as I possibly can. I say a lot of crazy shit sometimes on this show, and this is me speaking from the heart here, okay? I say a lot of crazy shit sometimes on this show. I really do. And, you know, usually I feel kind of funny about it. I feel like it's a little bit of a media bias or something like that. Maybe I'm getting the idea out that's, you know, maybe I'm pushing a narrative here myself, you know, even though I'm just a guy in a room talking to a tiny TV on top of a slightly bigger TV and you know, trying not to get, you know, clawed by cats. But if this video in itself, if this part of the broadcast, if these couple of things that I just showed you does not just put the writing on the wall for you folks, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a fucking racist, and the Republican Party at this point is a fucking fascist party. There's no way to justify it at this point. At this point, with these two, I literally, I didn't mean to put these two things together. This is just the last pickings that I had after discussing all the other things that I discussed earlier. This is just what we're left with. And, you know, I'm all out of scripts, so this is just talking. She's a fucking racist. They're a bunch of fucking fascists. If you don't like this stuff, we got an election coming up. Figure it out. I don't even know what else to say. I'll leave it to you folks. Look, you had the good common sense to follow me on Twitter. You had the common sense to subscribe to the channel. You had the good common sense to at least check out what we had to say here today. My God, when the time comes, I hope, and I hope that others will pray that you'll all make the right decisions. So that's all we got for today. Again, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Catch me on Twitter, Chainsaw CCC. Good luck to you. Catch you tomorrow, bro.